Hello and welcome to Hot and Heavy, the Elaine podcast. I'm your host, Shivani Desai. Today I'll be talking about Season 9, Episode 9, The Apology. Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing well out there. I'm recording very early in the morning. I've had a busy week and the pod is running late. I apologize. But yes, I literally just woke up about 15 minutes ago and I think that's very apparent in my voice. I also had a salty dinner last night, so I just feel all kind of, it's just amazing how little things like that can affect me at my age. Like I just feel tired. I did not sleep very well because I think the dinner was a little too indulgent. I had fajitas. You know, fajitas shouldn't be this consequential in my life, but apparently that's just where I am now. I ate healthy the rest of the day, and then my son had a tournament to go to, a basketball tournament, and we didn't get out of there until after 8 o'clock, but I hadn't eaten dinner, so we just stopped by our favorite Mexican restaurant, and I had a late dinner, and I am old. Can't have the late dinner and have a good night's sleep, apparently. I'm just going to move on because that thought depresses me. The synopsis for The Apology is as follows. A recovering alcoholic frustrates George by not apologizing for a 5-year-old insult. Elaine is offended to find that a coworker uses a toilet seat protector even though she and Elaine are the only ones who use that bathroom. Kramer seeks help from others when he realizes his showers are too inefficient. Jerry goes from ecstasy to agony when his beautiful girlfriend begins doing everything naked. This episode was written by Jennifer Crittenton. Yay, female writer! We start out in Jerry's apartment. Jerry is at his kitchen counter making waffles. He's calling for his girlfriend, Melissa, telling her they're ready. Fantastic, I'm starving, she says off camera. And then it's revealed that she is totally naked, and even Jerry is taken by surprise. How about that, he says. The actress in this scene is Kathleen McClellan. She was a model who was also once crowned Miss Illinois Teen USA. This was her first prominent acting role, and she also appeared in Suddenly Susan, The Bold and the Beautiful, among other shows and films. I think she does a very good job as Melissa. I was actually surprised to hear that she started out as a model because I was like, okay, she can really act. She's got a personality that I like, and her chemistry with Jerry is really good. She's very natural. I appreciate her performance. All right, next we're at Monk's. George has just been told by Jerry that Melissa ate breakfast naked. She didn't even want a napkin. George has experienced bedroom naked and walked to the bathroom naked, but never living room naked. Oh, it's a scene, man. It's like you're living in the Playboy mansion. Did she frolic? I don't really have enough room, Jerry says. Elaine and Puddy walk in together, and he has to go to the crapper, so he walks away. Jerry asks, oh, back together, and she tells them how his apartment was being fumigated, so they thought they'd give it another shot. She tells the guys that she got a call from Jason Hankey last night. George says, Stanky Hankey? Why? He called to apologize for standing me up 5 years ago. And it turns out it's because of AA. He's on step 9, which is apologizing to everyone you've ever wronged. Oh, George loves this. He expects an apology for the neck hole incident. What neck hole? Elaine asks. George starts telling the story, getting really hung up on the details, to which Elaine says, faster. Anyway, George says because of Jason Hankey's drafty apartment, he asked to borrow a sweater, a cashmere sweater, Jerry points out. George is like, preferably cashmere, I said, for warmth. And in front of the entire party, Jason Hankey says, no, I don't want you stretching out the neck hole. Elaine loves this. She starts laughing. He says, yeah, laugh it up. Everyone else did. She tells George, well, it's funny. I mean, you have a big head. Or is it because of your neck? And Jerry's like, no, I think the head does most of the stretching. Regardless, George says he had to walk around the party with a cheap MetLife windbreaker. And now it's payback time. Elaine's just staring at him. I think it's the size of your neck. It's my head. My take on this scene, in the notes about Nothing, I really appreciated this. They pointed out that 5 years previous to this, Elaine had the nip slip picture on her Christmas card. So I'm wondering if maybe that was why Hanky stood her up. So they kind of put that out there and like, oh, maybe that was a reason. And also the notes about nothing pointed out that Elaine's kind of throwing stones here about the big head comment since she was told that she had a big head. Now, Elaine and Puddy are back together. The flimsy reason could not be any better. I love that. His apartment was being fumigated. They're like, nah, let's try it again. Of course, Elaine is going to laugh at George's expense. Benna stands a moment. I love it so much. And it makes total sense. She wouldn't pass up any opportunity to shit on George. And I think what makes it funnier is how mad he is about it. If I was his friend, I'd be laughing at him too. Okay, when Elaine says faster, I have adopted that into my own life because I have a very verbose husband. And he definitely takes it well. He realizes he has this tendency to get hung up on details I don't care about. So whenever I'm like, faster, he's like, okay. So thank you, Elaine. I enjoy having that method so that I don't have to waste my time listening to every excruciating detail. I wanted to point out this brilliant writing choice to specify that that George had to walk around in a MetLife windbreaker because it just makes it funnier. A cheap coat or just windbreaker, not as funny. MetLife windbreaker just makes it sing. Take note, writers. This is the way to get just more depth out of a joke. It is so funny. Specificity always makes it better. And I'm pretty sure they're breaking, but Elaine and Jerry laughing at the end because you can always tell when Jerry is breaking. He just gets this smirk on his face, so I definitely think he's breaking in that moment. But also ending on a JLD laugh, always gold. Next, we're in the Peterman offices, in the bathroom, in fact, and Elaine is at the sink when her coworker Peggy walks in. We've met Peggy before, and she expresses to Peggy how great it is now that those nerds from accounting moved. We have this bathroom all to ourselves. Peggy says, yeah, great. And then Peggy goes into the stall, and from the mirror reflection, Elaine sees her pull out a seat protector before closing the stall door. My take, this is a fantastic scene, short but sweet. We get out Elaine's story here just so brilliantly. And I'm so glad Peggy is back. She's probably my favorite Elaine work rival. Megan Cole plays her, and she's fantastic. And also, this feels so natural. It's an actual conversation. It does not feel forced at all. It's my favorite way to get information out on a show. All the exposition, it doesn't have to be explained. It's just like, oh, we see the incident unfold real time, and now we know what Elaine's going to be dealing with. And that millisecond look Peggy flashes at Elaine after grabbing that seat protector and closing the door. I just can't love it more. Next, we're in Jerry's apartment. Kramer was left behind for the coffee shop visit because his shower was so long. Asks Jerry, well, how long do you take? And scoffs when Jerry says 10 minutes. Oh, that's kooky talk. Elaine enters. Kramer asks her how long she takes in the shower. She has the same answer, 10 minutes. Let me smell you. All right, whiff away. Kramer gets right in there around her neck and starts sniffing her. He's like, ooh, that's not bad. He goes in for another whiff and she stiff arms him. She's like, that's it. And he's like, oh, okay. Elaine tells Jerry about what happened with Peggy and the seat protector and how they're the only women on the floor. It's like we're roommates. I mean, would you use a seat protector if you had a roommate? And right then, Kramer's drink explodes behind them, spilling all over the fridge and the wall. The damage is probably already done. And Jerry takes over the pathetic cleanup that Kramer's trying to do, which is basically wiping it with his hands. And Jerry says Peggy just probably practices good hygiene. Elaine's like, yeah, you're probably right. One of those neurotic clean freaks while glaring at Jerry while he's cleaning. He's like, yeah. Kramer is going over his shower routine on a little mini pad of paper, and he's going to try and figure out how to focus and shorten his showers. My take on this scene, Elaine allowing Kramer to sniff her. I have always just, this choice makes me so happy. Normally, the trope would be like the female in her killjoy role would deny it or be grossed out like, ew, you're not going to sniff me. But whiff away is like a revelation. It's so, you don't see it that often. And I just love that choice. And just as brilliant, the stiff arm for the second whiff, and which Kramer completely accepts. I love, he's like, oh, okay. He just backs off right away. And I have to mention too, Elaine walks in on this. She has no idea what this is about. And he asks her about showering and then to smell her. And I think this really illustrates how nothing throws her at this point with Kramer. And it's very, very realistic. Like, he's such a kooky, quirky character. And so she just is like, oh yeah, okay, if you want to sniff me, cool. And frankly, it's the least Elaine can do after all of the help that Kramer has provided her in the past. Jerry, George, they always leave her hanging out to dry. But Kramer has electrocuted himself for her. He's pretended to be a doctor to get her medical records. He has done a lot for Elaine. The conversation with Jerry, she's just informing him what happened with Peggy. And then the Kramer gag leading into ripping on Jerry's clean freak tendencies. I actually would have loved this whole conversation to be about Jerry's naked issue, or at least he bring it up with Elaine. We needed more of Elaine's input here on Melissa walking around naked. Like, has she ever done this? Would she ever do this for, in front of a boyfriend? Elaine's view on naked Melissa is missing to me. Next, we're in Jerry's apartment. Jerry is playing Scrabble with naked Melissa. She crushes him with the word Zephyr, which, if you were wondering, the definition of Zephyr means a soft, warm breeze. And it kind of bothers me that Jerry doesn't know this word, considering it was a Ford model for many years. In fact, my family had the Zephyr station wagon in the 80s, so it holds a special place in my heart. But given Jerry's vast knowledge and interest in cars, I think he would know the word Zephyr. Melissa gets up to get some more iced tea, and Jerry just kind of watches her in delight, a beautiful naked woman walking through his apartment. But then off camera, she chokes on her drink, saying, wrong pipe, and she's just coughing and coughing. Jerry looks more and more disgusted as she coughs. All right, next we're at Monk's. George doesn't understand why the cough thing is so bad, and Jerry explains that coughing naked, it's a turnoff, man. So many muscles that spring into action. It's like the fat guy trying to catch that cannonball in slow motion. George feels no sympathy. He's like, oh, you're so spoiled. You know how much energy I expend just trying to picture women naked? Jerry explains, well, there's good naked and bad naked. Naked hairbrushing, good. Naked crouching, bad. Ooh, Jerry sees Jason Hankey approaching. George is so excited. Oh, it's grovel time. Jason greets them and tells them how he's going through the AA steps. Oh, what step are you on now? Step 9? George is such a dick. He's like, yeah, making amends. So he apologizes to Jerry for mishearing his name when they first met. And he called him Gary a few times. And he's always felt bad about it, so I'm sorry. Jerry appreciates the rectification. Jason then takes a breath, looks at George, who is leaned in, so ready for his apology. But then Hankey says, all right, I'll see you guys later, and exits. Next, we're in Jerry's apartment. Kramer is so proud he just took a 27-minute shower, which is a very short shower for him. But Jerry notices some suds on his neck and lather coming down his leg. He asks Jerry for help. What am I doing wrong? So we cut to Jerry's bathroom. Jerry explains how using gravity instead of cleaning one area at a time is key. Now, Kramer wants a demonstration, and Jerry's like, no, it's a dry run. George enters, kind of pauses to take in the scene, like, why are they in this bathroom together? But he brushes past that because he's so pissed off. Hankey was spotted taking personal inventory, which is step 10, so he's done with step 9. George walks out. Kramer suggests a baggy swimsuit for Jerry to wear so he can watch him shower. He's like, no, you're not getting any skin, Kramer. Well, this has all been one big tease. Next, we're at Peterman. Elaine is in a meeting with Peggy and Walter. She's looking over some proofs and she's very pleased with them. As she's rolling out this big piece of paper, she moves Peggy's water bottle, and Peggy is so grossed out, she puts the water bottle in the trash can and says, I'm going to go get another bottle of water. But then Walter offers his bottle after taking a swig, and she gladly thanks him and takes a sip right after he took a sip from the bottle. Elaine looks over, so confused. All right, my take, this is a very clever scene. We're showing, not telling. And now it's very clear that Peggy's issue is with Elaine only. Also, I noticed it on this rewatch for the podcast. I always assumed that Elaine touched her bottle of water without the cap on. And because she lives it right at the top, which honestly, that is really gross. Like, you shouldn't touch anyone's water bottle right where their lips touch it. But then I watched it over and over. I was like, I kind of paused it and took a closer look, and the cap is on. So Peggy wouldn't have been touching her lips to where Elaine's finger cooties were. But maybe that doesn't even matter. Maybe it's just Elaine touching anything of hers. Her disgust with Elaine goes that deep. And I have to say, Megan Cole going, ah, after taking the sip. So funny. All right, next we're in Monk's. Hanky is at a booth with a couple of friends chatting about working with ice cream. You get real buff forearms. This is one of my favorite lines. Yeah, I don't know if I'm into that. We see George walk by and spot Hanky through the window, and he comes in and confronts him. And Hanky totally disagrees about that neck hole thing warranting an apology. He says, no way, you would have completely stretched it out. George snaps. He says, you're an alcoholic. You have to apologize. Step 9. So Hanky starts apologizing. But it turns out he's ripping George a new one. He says he's so sorry. He didn't want George's rather bulbous head struggling to find its way through the normal-sized neck hole of his finely knit sweater. And the friends at the booth are loving it. And George is even more enraged. Next, we're at the West Side YMCA. Kramer is doing shower research in the locker room, being a super creep, watching dudes shower and not helping himself by responding to someone saying, yeah, I'm watching you too, but this guy's really showing me something. Cut to the next scene in Jerry's apartment. Jerry opens the door to Kramer with a black eye. Now, did Kramer actually knock? When does Jerry ever have to just open the door for Kramer? Anyway, obviously he got punched by one of the shower dudes. He says, you got a steak? Jerry gives him one. Oh, he puts it on his eye. And he asks for some A1 because he's cooking a steak. Well, a different one. Jerry shuts the door on him. And then naked Melissa comes out, which I guess could have happened at any point while Kramer was over there. This is also confusing. She comes out with Jerry's bike saying she fixed it. He's like, oh, that wasn't necessary. I don't really ride it. She wants to clean some of the bearings and, crouches, which Jerry isn't a fan of because he already said that's bad naked. Ouch, she says, caught my skin. Oh, that's bad, especially in that area. And then she wants a snack and finds a jar of pickles on the counter. Then she's struggling to open it. Ooh, this is a tough one. We see her feet all askew. Again, very bad naked. Jerry cannot watch that. He's like, please let me open it. But then she gets it open and she's like, oh, look at that welt. I can't. I've seen too much. Next, we're in Peggy's office. Elaine is confronting Peggy. What is it about me that you find so offensive? Well, Peggy comes clean. She says, you seem to be with a lot of men. Elaine is taken aback. Excuse me? I happen to have a very steady boyfriend. I mean, of course, they've broken up a few times, and there's an occasional guy here and there, but why is this any of your business? Peggy says, it's not. Good day. Elaine is not having it. Oh, you think I've got germs? I'll give you some germs. She grabs Peggy's keyboard and rubs it on her ass, squeezes her stapler in her armpit, and then coughs on her doorknob on the way out. You have a happy and a healthy. And Peggy is literally trying not to vomit. My take, no surprise. This is one of my favorite scenes of the series. Some masterful physical comedy from JLD here. She's so offended by Peggy's judgment of her lifestyle, which warranted, totally justified. Peggy, get over yourself. That move with the keyboard is amazing. I mean, we get the pettiest Elaine here. She's so petty. She could have just walked away and been like, you're crazy. This is none of your business. But no, she's going to torture this woman. And a little bit of a personal story. I can relate to Peggy here, not Elaine. But in my case, it was a proven fact that a girl I went to college with, she was a friend of a friend who I went to college with. She didn't actually go to Michigan State, but she would come to visit like almost every weekend to go out like to the bars with us. So this girl had confided in my friend, who then told me one time on a drunken night that this friend had genital warts and herpes. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, I am not touching anything. And I was naive, very unpromiscuous, if that's a word. So I didn't understand how those types of diseases were transmitted. So you better believe I totally pulled a Peggy on her. Like I think I even stopped going out with them because, like, you know, sometimes at the bar you take swigs from the same bottle. I'm just like, okay, I'm done. And then they had a falling out anyway, so she kind of went away naturally. But oh my God, I was a Peggy. She was very promiscuous, and she confided in my friend, and very Elaine style, my friend whose vault was opened on a drunken night. She told me, she's like, oh my God, she has like warts and she gets herpes like on her genitals and her mouth. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, even though I barely touched this girl, I was on the lookout for any of those symptoms in the years following. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. Jerry points out that George did technically get an apology. George is like, what? I was like some horrible straight man in a sketch. He was riffing. Jerry then tells George how he hit the limit with naked Melissa after a full body flex on a pickle jar. George suggests you show her bad naked, get that belt sander out, that thing vibrating, she'll get the picture. I just wanted to point out, George takes a magazine from Jerry's mail pile and then walks into the bathroom. I mean, it's just blatant that he's going to go take a dump. I don't know. I always notice stuff like that. I'm like, they just are like, okay, who's going to be taking a dump in this scene? Like, make sure they take a magazine, walk into the bathroom so it's obvious. Jerry then takes a call from Kramer, who's calling from his shower, and he figured out that that's where he wants to be, so he's not getting out. He's just going to do everything from his shower. Next, we're at Peterman. There is a staff meeting, and Jay Peterman tells everyone, bad news, Peggy is sick. Oh, please, Elaine says. She's stuffed up, achy, and suffering from intense malaise. Elaine's like the bad kid in class. She's like, come on, we all have intense malaise, and nudges the guy next to her, who has no reaction. Well, Jay Peterman believes Peggy, tells Elaine she's in bed. Elaine's like, this is all in her mind. Okay, she's insane. She thinks that I made her sick because I coughed on her doorknob, rubbed her stapler in my armpit, and put her keyboard on my butt. The guy next to her just glares at her. Yeah, she's a wacko. My take, such a great escalation of the story here. Yeah, of course, Peggy is sick in bed now. And Jay Peterman's concern for her always amuses me. Like the way he says, she's in bed. Like it's his punctuation for how sick she is. Like, she's in bed, Elaine. How could you even deny this? And of course, I love everything that Elaine does here. Yeah, I love the little like slouch down, like the kid in class who's like talking out of turn. It's totally her vibe. But very specifically, the way JLD says but, it cracks me up so much every time. It's great. And such a fantastic moment that that's the last word in her little description of what she did on my butt. Oh, I love it. And that the moments with that guy next to her, even better. Okay, next we're in Monks. George is meeting with Hankey's sponsor and tells him that he's very concerned about Jason Hankey. The sponsor's like, well, he's doing very well. And George claims that, well, he's skipping steps. Is there some unresolved issue between you and Jason, he asks. Oh, a little something called step 9. Instead of an apology, he was beep-bopping and scatting all over me. The sponsor's confused as to why George contacted him. Well, aren't you the boss of him? You shouldn't let him move up. The sponsor notices that he's quite upset. Well, George thinks he should drop him down a few steps. Oh, admit there's a higher power. The sponsor says, you know what? We have a meeting tomorrow. Why don't you drop by? Well, that satisfies George, and he thanks him. And then he does that super annoying thing where he tries to relate by saying, by the way, my uncle was an alcoholic. So he kind of pounds his chest like dumbass. All right, next we're in Kramer's shower with him. We're seeing Kramer living his constant shower life, washing his dishes and talking on the phone to Lomez about Jerry's naked situation. This is a great little peek into, like, we already know that Kramer has all these friends that we never see. And I just love this notion that he gossips about this friend circle to that friend circle and vice versa, I bet like Lomez is like, I don't know if this Jerry, George, and Elaine, who the hell are they? So it's a little peek into that. I like that about Kramer's life. And then Kramer looks down. He notices that his water isn't draining and there's all these floating bits of food. He goes, oh man, I got a clog. I got to call you back. Next, we're in Jerry's apartment. Naked Melissa is sitting on the couch reading the paper. Jerry comes out totally naked except his belt sander strapped around him. She's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I found a rough spot. I'm going to polish it out." "No, why are you naked?" "Oh, I thought naked was good." She's very blunt. She says, "This is not good naked." And Jerry exits, all dejected. Next, we're at a meeting. George enters, and Hanky's sponsor tells him to have a seat. "Where's Hanky?" he's wondering. Turns out it's a rageaholics meeting, and this sends George, into a rage. He yells at the guy speaking, calls him a pinhead. "Please don't call me pinhead." Well, George says, "I'm not here for rage, I'm here for revenge," and that he's losing it. All right, next we're at Monk's. George continues his rage with Jerry. "The whole world is against me." And Jerry recognizes, "Yeah, you got some rage." "I know. And now they want me to bottle it up. It makes me so mad." I love Jason Alexander's performance here. Well, Jerry tries to change the subject about how his bad naked demo didn't work. But George is only focused that the bread has nuts in it. This is something I say whenever I have, that bread that's just like so much going on in it, seeds, nuts. It's like, what? But I do actually love that bread, but I always say, "This bread has nuts in it." Elaine enters and Jerry asks her, "What's wrong with my body?" Without missing a beat, she says, "Chicken wing shoulder blades." "Oh, is that it?" "No, but it's a start." "Why?" He explains how he was walking around naked in front of Melissa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Elaine interrupts and explains that's a terrible look for a man. And it works for a woman because the female body is a work of art. And how the male body it's utilitarian. It's for getting around. It's like a Jeep. And goes even further, saying she thinks it's hideous. The hair, the lumpiness. It's simian. "Oh, well, some women like it," George says. And Elaine responds, "Ugh, sickies." My take, this is a fantastic Elaine scene. It feels very classic Seinfeld. I love the very conversational aspect. It feels very season 2, season 3. Now, I said earlier, I really would have liked Elaine's take on Melissa walking around naked, but instead we get her take on Jerry's body, which is very well written and delivered. I love how the comparison to the Jeep, just fantastic writing. Next, we're back in Kramer's shower. He's reading a manual to install a garbage disposal in his shower, but he doesn't really understand the instructions. So we see him call Puddy, who is sitting and staring at Elaine's place, just doing nothing. He tells Kramer that the manual has a misprint. "What do you got, a Clarkman?" He says he'll call him back and walk him through it, and he hangs up. Elaine enters, and Puddy gives the message that J. Peterman called, "You owe $5 for a balloon bouquet." "A balloon bouquet for who?" "Peggy's taking a turn for the worse." Elaine's like, "Oh, God, I suppose she's still blaming me?" "Yeah, that's right." "I don't believe this." "Talk to me, babe." So she tells Puddy how this woman thinks that my germs make her sick. "Oh, germaphobe. I know what that's like." Elaine's like, "What?" "I'm a recovering germaphobe. 10 years. He pulls out a necklace and shows it to her. "What's this symbol?" "It's a germ." My take on this scene, it's pretty straightforward, telling Puddy the situation with Peggy, Puddy and Peggy, and it's revealed that he was a germaphobe. But I want to talk about how I love Elaine just seems so annoyed with Puddy sharing this germaphobe past. She's like, "What?" There's no sensitivity. And of course she would be. I mean, basically everything Puddy does annoys her. So I love that that's very on track. She just kind of looks at him. She's like, "What is this symbol?" Next, we're in Peggy's bedroom. Elaine and Puddy are visiting, and she thanks her for bringing the man she's currently sleeping with over to talk to me. "But I assure you, I have no problem with germs." Elaine sort of lunges nearer to her, and then she's terrified. "Please." Puddy sympathizes with Peggy and says he knows her pain. He says 10 years ago, waking up next to someone like Elaine would have sent him to the FISA hex. Okay, pause. I've never known what FISA hex is, and I'm like, let me Google it. FISA hex is a topical antibacterial sudsing emulsion used to treat and prevent skin infections. So it's literally you emulsify yourself in this solution. I feel like it's like a full body antibacterial soak. So there you go, if you didn't know what a FISA hex was. Back to the scene, Peggy's intrigued, really. And he tells her how he still has trouble looking at her disgusting slippers. "Hey," Elaine says, "I've had those since college. They're bunnies." "They're bacteria traps." "So you just learned to live with it?" Peggy asks. Well, for the most part, Elaine just is sitting here being forced to listen to how she's pretty gross. Even Puddy agrees on some level, but that it's him getting over his germophobia that allows him to be with her. Oh my God, it's great. So she tells him, all right, we're broken up for the rest of the day. My take, it's such a hilarious scene. So many great reactions from Elaine. It's all in her face when Peggy and Puddy are insulting her. And just to point out a little bit of physicality, because you guys know I love it. I love that leg cross after she tells them they're broken up for the rest of the day. It's such a mom type punishment, but it fits their ridiculous relationship. All right, next we're in Jerry's apartment. Jerry and Melissa have talked and agreed that they're going to wear clothes from now on. This is normal, Jerry points out. So as they go on with their conversation, we see each of their point of views. Jerry is imagining her naked, but good naked, brushing her hair, and he can't concentrate. But Melissa is having terrible flashbacks to Jerry's bad naked and imagines him basically looking like a monkey. All right, next we're at Kramer's shower again. He's on the phone with Jerry. He's like, oh, you broke up. Jerry's like, we couldn't carry on a conversation. They were each picturing each other, naked or not naked. We see Kramer use his shower garbage disposal. He tells Jerry he's cooking up a thank you dinner for Puddy and asks how to make one of those radish roses. And Jerry busts out this knowledge, no problem. Insert a knife in the center of the radish and twist. Then to make it bloom, soak it in water for 30 to 40 minutes. Next, we're in a Baskin Robbins. Hanky is working there. Looks like he is working with ice cream after all. And he's called George there to meet him. George is all put out. Well, I'm here. What do you want? And Hanky's had a change of heart after speaking to his sponsor. He admits his apology was rude and sarcastic and that George deserves a lot better. George is so glad. He says, thank you. You're welcome, Hanky says. George is on his way out as a kid enters and asks about a flavor if they have it. But then George stops. He can't let this go because of a technicality. He's like, I didn't really get an apology. What? Hanky says. The kid wants him to get on that cone. Hang on a second. He asks George, what do you mean? I feel I need the apology. The kid is getting more impatient, putting pressure on Jason. He tells him, look, I'm alone, and I don't even think we have that flavor. He turns back to George. He's like, look, I admitted I was wrong. What more do you want? He's like, I want an apology. The kid's friend enters and asks if he got his ice cream. And he's like, no, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Then Jason gets upset. He's like, oh, yes, I do. I'm interacting with someone. Now I'm sorry. There it is, George says. Now say it again, but to me. But no. Hanky admits he's not sorry. It was cashmere. I hate step 9. Then he has a total meltdown looking for an alcoholic ice cream like rum raisin. Oh, daiquiri ice, that'll work. And he tells everyone to get out. Next, we're in Elaine's apartment. Kramer, Puddy, Elaine, and Peggy are enjoying Kramer's food, which looks to be just a salad and some bread. But it's Elaine, so a big salad works. And Elaine compliments him on the food and how that radish rose is so cute. Elaine then toasts to Peggy on her first week of being germ-free, and they all clink glasses. Kramer then toasts to Puddy for helping him install a much-needed garbage disposal in my bathtub. Peggy finds that odd and asks about the garbage disposal in his tub. Kramer's like, yes, I have one. In fact, I prepared this whole meal in there while I bathed. Oh, they're all so disgusted. Puddy starts yelling, germs, germs. My take, it's so gross. Great reveal. I love how this leads into the tag, which is George entering another meeting and asks Peggy if this is rageaholics. No, germaphobes, Puddy answers with Elaine next to him. George is like, what are you guys doing here? Kramer. And that explains it all. Then we see George go into another meeting. Jason's at the front introducing himself as a rageaholic. George enters all hot. He's like, step skipper. He's a step skipper, and points at Jason. He skipped step 9. Tells the group how he wouldn't apologize for saying that I would stretch out the neck hole of his sweater. Everyone starts laughing. It's not funny, George says. Jason tells the group, look, it was a very nice sweater. I mean, take a look at his neck, not to mention the melon sitting on top of it. I don't think I'd trust him with the V-neck. Uh-oh, George is pissed. He's bebopping and scatting and I'm losing it. My take about the little Elaine portion of this scene. I love that all it takes is saying, Kramer. And George is like, right, and walks away. So brilliant. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break and I will see you on the other side. Hey, puny forearms. Yeah, you know who you are. On arm day, it's all about your biceps and shoulders, but that region south of your elbow is ignored.
That's why you need us, Swole Scoops. We're certified personal trainers who specialize in giving those forearms the buff appearance they deserve. Now, our approach is a little unconventional. You don't meet us at a gym. We beat up your forearms in an ice cream shop. After a summer of working at Baskin-Robbins, our founder, Clark Showers, noticed how muscular his forearms were getting. Suddenly, the girls were interested and the boys were envious. 10 years later, he designed the most effective forearm building method, and Swole Scoops was born.
I was dating this girl, and when she saw me shirtless for the first time, she started laughing. Said that I was bad naked, that my arms looked like half-eaten chicken wings, meaty biceps into bony forearms. The next day, I signed up for a Swole Scoops package, and my forearms are as buff as they've ever been. Plus, I can make a mean chocolate sundae. Thanks, Swole Scoops.
To change your life through your forearms, call Swole Scoops at 555-NO-SOFT-SERVE. That's 555-NO-SOFT-SERVE. And schedule your first session today. For a limited time, you will receive a J. Peterman Peggy poncho, a full-body tarp that protects you from 99% of germs. Swole Scoops. Yeah, you're into that.
And we're back. Beyond the notes about nothing that I mentioned earlier, there weren't any extras to go over. So let's go ahead and open Greg's Sack Lunch. Greg is our most dedicated contributor, and every week he sends us his thoughts about the episode. So let's get into Greg's thoughts about the apology. His overall thoughts, he says, "This is a pretty good episode all around. I love both Elaine and George's stories here, and I like that we get Peggy back for another go. James Spader makes for a solid guest star and new nemesis for Costanza. My favorite thing here, though, is we get some scenes of Elaine, Jerry, and George together in the diner. This makes the episode for me more than the actual storylines." Yeah, I think it's a really well-constructed episode. I love that it's a female writer writing this because they do a really good job just kind of combining everything together. Next in Greg's Sack are his favorite scenes and Elaine moments. He says, the scene at Monk's where George explains the neck hole story to Elaine is hilarious. He's still miffed about something so minor, and Elaine and Jerry just can't help but laugh at him. I love the dynamic where they can laugh at him and he's never mad for more than 2 seconds. But if someone outside the group does it, he holds the grudge forever. JLD does some great laugh acting here. That is a great point, Greg. Yes, this grudge. And it's outside the group. I mean, didn't Jerry just sleep with Nina, at this point, maybe at the most a month before this? But no grudge, nothing at all. But the neck hole comment 5 years later, still bothering George. Ending on a JLD laugh in a scene, it's fantastic. And I think she might be breaking, but it doesn't matter. Her laugh is delightful either way. Next, Greg says, like I said, I love Peggy. The scene where Elaine goes out of her way to infect her belongings makes me laugh so hard. Elaine is at her best when she's seeking revenge. I love the final smile after she coughs all over the door handle. What I love most about this pairing, though, is that Elaine seems to want to be her friend both at the beginning and at the end of the episode. I wanted more for Peggy in this series. Completely. We needed the trifecta, the rule of 3. Peggy in 3 episodes, because she is fantastic. Megan Cole is just a master, and everything she does, those expressions are fantastic. The way she delivers every line, perfect foe for Elaine. I completely agree, Greg. And yeah, I called her Petty Elaine, but yeah, vengeance-seeking Elaine. I mean, would you ever rub someone's keyboard on your ass with them right in front of you while you're doing it and smiling at them? How about this? I'm not sure I can get to that level of pettiness and vengeance. All right, next in Greg's Sack, I find his scene swap idea. He says, Kramer's stupid shower thing is the weakest we have here, and how many times are his bathroom issues of either using a toilet or a shower going to be the plot for him? Everything for the other 3 works, and Kramer just needed to be worked into their stories somehow, and his just dropped because it's pretty ridiculous. Jerry's plot with the always nude girlfriend is a funny premise, but it goes nowhere, and this would be the next thing that could be whittled down in time. Yes, I'm with you on the shower thing. I'm going to get more into that with my final thoughts. I agree with you. It's the weakest plot. You know, we know Kramer's quirky and he does stuff like this, but there's also just a very personal reason I hate it. Yeah, I do agree with you. The nakedness plot does kind of stall out, but yeah, I still find it funny, but it's definitely not as strong as the Jason Hankey plot line. Spoiler, that's my favorite one of the episode, and the Peggy plot with Elaine is very close to that. Those are definitely the strongest two. Next in Greg's sack are his other thoughts. He says, I don't know if I like James Spader as an actor or not. He's always in great shows and films, but yet he is off-putting to me, which might be the whole vibe he's going for. I definitely think it's the vibe he's going for. From what I understand, and I got this from listening to Office Ladies, because he had that brief stint on The Office as the manager after Steve Carell left. Robert California was the character name. And they're very tactful about it, but Jenna and Angela are like, it was a different experience. He's just a very different type of actor. He doesn't have an improv background. I don't know. I gleaned from that he was very annoying and like kind of a diva on set. That's just me making some inferences from what they were talking about. But yeah, I just have a feeling he is a weirdo. I never watched that show. What was it called? Blacklist or whatever it's called. Something with black in the title. It was an NBC drama. It was really successful. But I loved him in Pretty in Pink. I mean, he is like, he's so good in that. And that's really, other than this episode, what I know him from. So I haven't seen a lot of the other movies that he's famous for, or series, I guess. And I hated his character in The Office, but I think he played it really well. I think they wrote this character to be a creep, a weirdo, just like super intimidating. And he did it fantastically. That was also post Steve Carell era of The Office, which I just think is, sorry, all garbage. Anyway, I can see your dilemma here, Greg. I can see why you struggle with this. I'm with you. I don't think I'd be running out to see a new James Spader movie or show, but as Jason Hankey, love it. Couldn't love it more. And lastly, Greg says, I can't say it enough. I love Peggy as a character. She's not truly doing anything that bad, but she makes for a good Elaine nemesis at the office. This also might be my favorite Puddy appearance. I love how he disses Elaine right in front of her about her germiness. These two make Elaine's story even better. You nailed it. Puddy and Peggy, Peggy and Puddy. If we were going to get another episode with Peggy, it needed to be with those two together. I loved them both ganging up on Elaine. And she's just sitting there thinking, okay, let me resolve this. But then she's attacked even more. Oh, it's so fantastic. Thank you so much, Greg, for your thoughts. And now it's time to close Greg's sack lunch. All right, my favorite Elaine moments. Rubbing that keyboard on her ass. No shame. I love that whole part of her germing everything up, but the dancey keyboard moment specifically is the best. That look on her face, she's just staring at her with this maniacal smile. Like, how about this? Yeah. It's kind of her version of what Sam does when she trashes her office, the stiff-armed coworker, right? Like when she's just like, how about this and this? It's Elaine's own version of that, except spreading her ass germs and armpit germs and mouth germs. And then a close second, I've already said it, but the way she says butt, putting her keyboard on my butt. Love it. And my final thoughts. Elaine has a work plot with a coworker giving her a hard time. These are my favorite plots for Elaine, more than boyfriend plots. I do love Puddy episodes, but I just love when she's got something at work that she needs to deal with. And as Greg said many times, Peggy and Elaine together, magic. Megan Cole. Oh, I'm with you, Greg. I wish she came back again. I also have to point out this plot is so original. Getting shunned by a coworker because she thinks Elaine is sleeping around. One thing I do wish they did, and this might be my scene swap idea, cutting out all that Kramer shower crap. And I would have loved maybe some scenes of Peggy overhearing Elaine. Maybe it was like flashbacks or something. Maybe Elaine with Dugan and Walter in the break room chatting about her dates, kind of being one of the guys. And, not necessarily saying like, oh my God, I was with like 4 guys last week, but just talking about her boyfriends or whoever she's seeing, because that still works with Peggy just drawing this conclusion on her own, maybe just hearing a couple things. Peggy's a prude. I think we can assume that. But I think that would have been really fun, just her misinterpreting Elaine, just sharing about her life, her dating life, and maybe even pointing out a double standard about how Walter and Dugan are single dudes and they talk about that stuff, but Peggy doesn't have a problem with that. I really wanted them to hone in more on this is an Elaine-centric problem. I think they brilliantly do it with the water bottle incident, but I just would have liked more of that. I did not need all the Kramer shower garbage disposal. I didn't need all that. Also, I did dig into, since Peggy's first appearance on the show, which was the Susie, of course. Since that episode, I did count how many boyfriends Elaine had. Now I know we probably aren't seeing all of the boyfriends Elaine has, but just in the life of the show, she dated, after that Susie episode, she dated Blaine, Hal Kitzmiller, who she didn't sleep with, we know that, of course, Puddy, and I'm the Wiz. So those are the guys that she went out with in that time. And it's 4. Peggy. And this was at least over a year ago. So I think Peggy's just a prude, just a different set of values and very judgy. Back to the Kramer shower stuff. I know how it ties into Elaine's plot at the end. And it might be just me. Wasting water is one of my biggest pet peeves, and seeing that water just running and running while he's not even technically showering just gets under my skin. It got under my skin in 97 and in 2024. I can't shake it. Now, this isn't a criticism of the show. It's just my own personal discomfort with this plot. And beyond that, putting that to the side, I just don't find this plot very funny. I think the initial premise of Kramer not understanding how to take an efficient shower, that's funny. That's got some potential. But maybe, I don't know, Kramer just gets a bunch of cats to lick him clean, since that's what he referenced earlier. I mean, that's bonkers. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that's super weird, but I think that could still work in the end with Peggy finding a cat hair in the salad she's eating. We could have made it work, but yeah, the shower stuff, that all of that could have been lifted out. My favorite plot here is Hanky and George. It's one of my favorites. Now, I think James Spader he might be one of my top 5 guest stars in the series. I think he is just incredible in this episode. Every delivery. I don't think I trust him with the V-neck. I think that's just the way he talks, but I love all of it. And I think that's all I can say about the apology. Please be sure to follow Hot and Heavy on social media. On Instagram, it's at Hot Heavy Elaine, TikTok at Elaine Bennis Podcast. And if you'd like to email me, please do at elainepodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you next time.